Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gents. This is DafubFilm&TV, and surprise, 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 I have another review for you today. This time it is episode 5 of genv, which I have belatedly watched. Again, real life has been getting in the way. And, well, what do I think about it? Well, spoiler warnings first, in case I spoil the episode. I'm going to try and keep it spoiler free, because you know me, I'll forget at some point and mention something I shouldn't have, that is either a spoiler or that is a spoiler but I don't realize it's a spoiler. So you've been warned. This episode maintains the standard set by the previous 4, in that, again, across the board, the production quality is very good, and the key foundation stone that underpins all of that, the writing, is substantially better than what we've seen from a certain streaming service being run and operated and offered to the buying public by a house built by a certain mouse. If you know who that is. Again, I'm maybe been comparing this to that, Watts content a bit too much, like a what is the term? I've forgotten. It's something that repeats itself over and over and over again. Like I'm beating a dead horse, or should I say donkey, or should I say mouse. And I'll try not to do this interview. I'll try and review the episode in of itself. It continues on the story we've seen up to now, the main characters. I still can't, pick out any of the characters per se by name. But that is because one of the reasons why it's very, very easy to pick out the main kind of characters, like Homelander from TheBoys, is the simple, straightforward fact that they have, these kind of superhero names, which for the most part, the rest of most of the cast in this show do not have. We have Marie Moreau, and no, I haven't remembered her name. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. I apologize again. I just gave up and just said screw it. I'm just gonna look at the Wikipedia file when I'm looking for the cast, the characters' names. We've got Andrea Anderson. We've got Emma Mayer, aka the only character I know, Little Cricket. We've got Kat Dunlop. We've got Jordan Lee, and so on. And these again, because none of them are they're all supers, they've all got superpowers, but none of them are kind of superheroes yet. They're all still in kind of college/university. As a result of this, it's easier to remember the names. It's only 6 episodes, and it's easier to remember the names that have got kind of superhero, like your Homelanders. Do I actually remember any of the others? Soldier Boy, who I've heard rumors he turns up, spoiler warning, at some point in the show, maybe in the final episode. I could be completely wrong on this, but just so you know, if he does turn up, I don't know if he does or he doesn't, but if he does turn up, he hasn't turned up so far. I wonder, I heard that rumors a while ago. I might be completely wrong. But with straightforward kind of superhero names, you remember them, and they're catchy, and you remember them pretty quickly. But in this, we're only, again, 6 episodes in, and the first 3 episodes were all released in the same day. And so, maybe if it had a couple more months or weeks of a run, I'd catch the characters' names. Or maybe it's just, at this point, they're, again, this is one of maybe the single criticism of the show is the combination of that, and maybe that none of them have stood out to me. The way the characters have in The Boys, or characters in other shows I've been watching, and they just haven't yet. This isn't to imply that there are bad performances by the actors, or that the writing is bad. The writing, again, and everything else built on top of it is the writing is much better than anything I've been watching lately, and the production quality is on par or better. No using the the volume as either a cost-cutting measure or as a crutch, the way certain other streaming services that aren't Amazon Prime Video have been doing things over the last 2 years and more, actually. At this point, this show is, again, location shooting where there are sets. They're really well done. Again, credit where credit is due. I can't fault any element of the production at all. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old and my attention is not what it used to be. But so far, I'm not remembering any of the names of the characters, but I do know who they are. I do remember their story thread from one episode to another, to another, to another. So again, if the show gets a second season, or if any of the characters get integrated into the boys, I may well, over time, become familiar enough to them where I can recall their names very easily. But for the time being, that's I'm afraid not on the cards. Yes. I'm looking at the Wikipedia file. Golden Boy, the guy who blew himself up, was in the first episode, the first 3 episodes, can't remember which it was. It's played by Patrick Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. I did not know that. Does he look like his father at all? I'm not quite sure. Maybe he looks more like his mother. But that's an interesting factoid I wasn't aware of. So there you go. But again, his character's got a superhero named Golden Boy, and I kind of remembered that. Well, I might have confused it with some Fireball thing or something else before I looked at the Wikipedia page. But either way, that's the one kind of question mark I would have over the show, over the episode, over the 5 episodes I've seen so far, in that, that's the one thing I would have of concern about the show, is that I haven't gotten invested enough interest in emotionally in any of, or emotionally vested in any of the characters enough to remember their names, their character names, without with effort or without. But I do, again, remember I'm not having to work to remember the story, what's happening episode to episode. I remember it all. It's just that the characters' names just haven't stuck with me yet. I know who all of them are. I remember the story threads. I know their backgrounds and so on, as they have been laid out to and or explained to us. And it's a very well made show. It continues to make this episode 5 continues there's no clunkers in this episode, no clunkers in any of it. And no clunkers in the dialogue front, no clunkers in terms of the cast, the writing. None of the plot threads have come to a unsatisfactory / annoying end like they have in another streaming service that shall go unnamed. There shall go unnamed or remain nameless as shows have, again, story threads ending messily, or they're resolved in a pretty bad writing sort of way that just don't make the landing. I'm right now, I can't think of anything else that I'm presently watching, or that I haven't watched season 2 of The Foundation. Again, for those Foundation fans out there, I haven't read the books. So just like with some of the content from another streaming service, I'm not familiar with the characters in their OG form, and therefore cannot be annoyed if they're portrayed incorrectly, or if the show's creators have messed with the story too much and so on, to the point that it annoys the book fans. And I think a lot of the book fans were annoyed and have been annoyed by season 1 of the show. I don't know about season 2. I get around to watching it. I might review it, but so far, out of what I've seen this year from streaming shows, and my admittedly relatively, I'm not necessarily very broad taste. I'm not necessarily watching, don't have access to a lot of streaming services, and I still haven't watched One Piece yet, and I I haven't watched season 3 of The Witcher 3, and quite frankly, at this point, with Cavill gone and from what I've seen online about it being a mess, I may not bother to do so. But if I've got time on my hands, I might just binge the season and maybe do a video about the whole season of it and say, this is mediocre shite. I hate this. Why is this? Why is the game, Witcher 3, that is so much better than this, and so on. But as it stands, so far it's, I think, overall the best thing I've seen this year. Star Trek Picard season 3 was this year. I liked that. That's probably in second place. I found for a couple of the first episodes of that show, the second, third episode, maybe also the fourth of Star Trek Picard began to drag on me somewhat, which hasn't happened here at all. Credit where credit is due. Although I know people who didn't have that issue at all. And season 3 is a nice little, as it were, member berry. I didn't bother watching season 2. I didn't like season 1. This is, I think, overall, just in terms of keeping my attention, keeping me, interested, I think this is doing a better job than certainly the first half of season 3 of Star Trek Picard did. And it should be, it should be noted that in that case, the first 2 seasons were an absolute mess. But you're still talking about, what is one of the absolute OG, now at this stage, rather depressingly from my standpoint, classic science fiction shows to have ever hit television. I mean, Next Generation ended in, God, was it 1994? So almost 30 years ago. That's how long ago that show ended, how old it is at this point. And while there are, in the original series, a good few rough episodes, particularly if you go back and watch it now, because, with the there's a big difference between having the time to write 8 to 12 or 6, even dare I say it, episodes of high-end appointment television now, and trying to write, 22 45-minute episodes a season for 7 years, which is what the writers on Next Gen did, I believe, memory serves me correctly. That's an awful lot of episodes to get written. So as you can imagine, there were some clunkers, particularly early on. And so the quality necessarily episode to episode in Next Gen is not what you would get now, nor what you probably remember if you haven't watched it. But considering that, even though season 1 and 2 Star Trek Picard season 1 was terrible, I didn't watch season 2. I hear it was even worse. There's still a huge amount of goodwill towards that cast and those characters, because again, there's still massive numbers of people alive who watched that show when they were children, or when they were teenagers, or in their 20s or 30s, who were, again, from Gen Xers to millennials to boomers, who are still alive and love that show. And Gen V isn't starting from scratch, but because it is an offshoot of TheBoys, so it has that kind of brand association with it. But it's a completely new cast of characters. It's a spin-off. Whether it's a one-off season spin-off or there'll be multiple seasons, I don't know. I actually think that probably overall, maybe not necessarily my favorite, but certainly the best overall Star Trek show, in my opinion, is Deep Space Nine. I won't get into why here. Just a much very, very, very. It is home to some very unique characters. Odo, Garak. I still remember those characters' names back from the 1990s, and I can't remember those characters now. Although, again, give it time. Maybe if there's another season or 2 or 3 or 4, I'll remember their names, particularly if they all get superhero names. But I remember Garak, I remember Quark, I remember Odo, Kira Nerys, and so on with great fondness. And it's not here. This show clearly isn't here with me or with Next Gen at that level yet. But we're only 5 episodes into a 6-season show that may have only 1 season or may have multiple. And considering that, again, it doesn't have all that fan love and fan support that season 3 of Picard enjoyed, once the word got out that actually it's pretty damn good, and vastly superior to the Star Trek we've been seeing, certainly since Star Trek Discovery hit the air. It's, I think, for first season, doing really, really well. It's there've been no clunker episodes. None, again, repeating myself, none of the story threads have been, so far. I mean, the episode 6 could be, it could be an hour long, and be an hour long microcosm of the final season of Game of Thrones, where the people in charge of the writing and making the show so completely and spectacularly fail to quote unquote stick the landing, that it ruins the whole show. And there are a lot of people out there who say, yeah, it was at the time truly probably the best thing on television, but there's no point in watching it from the beginning now, because the final season is such a complete and utter mess and ruins the whole thing. It's possible episode 6 could pull that off for Gen V, but I think that is highly, highly unlikely. Much more likely is if it continues on to the level of quality we've seen so far, and they can again stick the landing. I think this will be probably, if not the best, again, not the best original show, because it's not an original show, it's a spin-off of The Boys, but probably the best show I've seen, or season of television / streaming show I've seen this year, considering the fact that, yes, Star Trek Picard is the best bit of Star Trek I've seen in quite some time, but for me, it began to drag in the middle quite a bit, and that's even with all the kind of the fondness and nostalgia I have for that cast and those characters. And this show is starting with a much blanker slate than 7 years with 20 to 22 episodes a season, plus the movies that the next gen cast and crew have. Is there anything else I can say about it? It's just very well done. Again, I don't want to try and avoid spoilers, I suppose, but it is. So it's not really how much I can go into specific. How do you write? I really should maybe watch some or read some OG reviews of some television somewhere and figure out how to do more professional, quote unquote, review of an episode without actually spoiling it. But in essence, still can't remember the characters' names, but it's the best thing I've seen this year that isn't, that doesn't have Patrick Stewart and the rest of the next gen crew in it. I highly recommend watching the show if you aren't watching it already. I am quite. Should I do the reviews with no spoilers, or should I do them with them, or a combination of both? I don't know what I should do. Actually, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I mean, I think it's possible. Do I really want to go do a deep dive into the story of each episode? Again, I could do with your views in the comments. Let me know one way or another whether I should be putting everything under a microscope or not, or a semi-microscope or not, and just do spoilers and more spoilers per episodes, or avoid spoilers per episodes. Again, I don't have access to the show before it's released, so there's a good chance you've already seen it before you've seen the review. But just let me know what you think in the comments below, whether I should throw spoilers at you in these reviews left, right, and center. Comment in this below in terms of any suggestions in terms of what I could do to improve these videos. You could also let me know other content you liked this year in terms of streaming shows and so on that you think I should watch and maybe do reviews of. And if for some strange reason you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Like the video. Again, the algorithm is all knowing and all it both gives and takes away. So the more what's the word for it, interaction with the audience, or proof that the audience is actually paying attention, the happier the algorithm is. So please subscribe, like the video, comment below, ring the bell to get instant notifications when new content is uploaded by yours truly. And this is DafubFilm&TV signing off. Toodaloo.